Welcome to the Closing Table with host Tamera, where we break down how to be successful in real estate and what it's really like to work in the real estate business. This is the Closing Table with Lawyer's Title.
Welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Tamera. Today, I've got an author on the show. You will recognize his face. Nick Good. He's the author of The Six-Figure Agent. So we're going to talk about his new book. But first, if you like my content, you're really going to love my escrow team. So let's get a conversation going about your title needs. You can reach out to me on all of my social media platforms. And as I mentioned, Nick is a returning guest. I thought it really important to have him on the show because if you could tell, I'm in a new studio today. And that is thanks to the only real estate podcast guys worth listening to. I just gave you a nice plug there, Nick.
Appreciate that.
So Nick Good, he is team leader of the Good Home Team. 2023, they did $64 million in production. He's the best-selling author of Six-Figure Agent. But one of the things that we're not going to talk about today that I also like to speak with him about are property investments. I'm a big fan. You have your property management company.
That's right.
You have your capital fund, right? Or is it syndication or Deep Blue Capital? We just talked about the name.
Yeah, so it's a syndication, and it's a syndication company first and foremost.
Okay.
And then ultimately it will become probably the goal would be to turn into a family office that, takes over and manages their own, our own assets through creative financing, taking down our own deals and not having to syndicate every project out.
Well, we're going to talk about your multiple lead generation pillars.
Yes.
Okay. So we can talk about those things, but first I want to welcome you to the show. So thank you.
Thank you. Look,
joining me
this
today.
is my home turf.
I know.
I'm in my chair. This is my area. So thank you for doing this. And I will say, we were just talking off camera that Tamera needs to make title sexy.
That's right.
Right? We got to make this fun. And what I will say, for every Dallas-Fort Worth real estate agent, Lawyer's Title is the best title company to work with. Tamera's amazing. Top sales rep there.
Thank you.
Right?
Yeah.
There's a reason why. And so I would ask you to just reach out with Tamera and find out why she is the top sales rep. And it's not just the whining and dining. Right? Something that you do very, very well. And you didn't ask me to do this, by the way.
know. This is amazing. I'm going to be quiet.
And I don't think anybody really does this to fill your cup. Something you do really well is that you know the industry, right? You know it from foundations, right? You were slanging foundations back in the day to home warranties.
Yep.
To you were a real estate agent.
I was a recruiter.
Yeah, right. So you were in the brokerage side of the world. So you've kind of been through everything that what real estate agents are going through. You know the struggles they're going through. And you've also now you've got 6 rental properties,
Yes,
right?
I do.
So you're investing where a lot of people in this industry they just talk,
Yeah.
right? They actually don't walk the walk. And you do. So I would just ask if you're an agent and maybe you want your business to pick up, your title sales reps, their job is to help you with that, right? Because the more business that you bring in, realistically, you should be thanking them and giving them more business. So there's my plug.
I did not pay you to say that
Nope.
and didn't know you were going to do it. So thank you very much
You're
for
welcome.
that. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we are here to talk about you today. Now, there was something really interesting that you said, and I told you this yesterday in our pre-podcast discussion, that you're the second realtor that I've talked to who said this to me, and I talked to a lot of realtors.
Yep.
You had your best year ever
Yes.
last year.
Yep. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, and it's hard, as agents, we always just want to sing that from the rooftop, and we always want to pat ourselves on the back. But last year was a tough year for a lot of people, like brokerages, teams, agents in general. 49% of all agents last year nationwide sold 0 or 1 house.
It's incredible.
So they weren't making very much money, if any money at all. And so to come out screaming from the rooftops how we had an amazing year, our agents had a great year at the Good Home Team. They crushed it. What I will say is that transactional counts, it wasn't our best year. So what helped us is we did sell, I think it was like 178 units last year.
Okay.
Previously our best is like around 206 closed units. So unit wise is down, or off from the top of our transactional closing, but our volume is up, where we've focused more on going after higher end properties.
That's so interesting. My average price point went up too.
Yeah, well, that's natural. That's naturally gonna happen just from the COVID appreciation and everything else. So that's naturally gonna happen.
True, but it's also where you're focusing your time, right?
Absolutely, yes. And so that really helped. But what we talked about this yesterday is that where a lot of agents struggle, and I talk about this in the six-figure agent, is that they don't have their lead generation pillars down.
Yeah.
Right. What most agents end up focusing on is they go to a brokerage or they go and just research online, and it says, what do they say to do first? Go hit up your sphere.
That's right.
Your friends, your family, the people that are supposed to know, like, trust, and love you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard to do in the beginning, or if you're struggling, because that's a longer sales cycle, right? Because, if I go to you, Tamera, I'm like, hey, do you, if I'm starting to work you and say, do you happen to know anybody thinking about buying or selling here in the near future?
Yeah.
Most likely you're going to say, no, not right now. Maybe you will. And then you're going to hopefully do the handoff introduction. And that still could be 3, 6, 12 months before that materializes.
But I also think another challenge is that the fact that you're brand new and this is someone's biggest financial investment. And so look, don't come to me because I know everybody, I know a ton of realtors have been doing this for a long time. But, if you took me out of real estate and I was just a buyer, I don't know how comfortable I would feel turning my transaction over to somebody who got their license 2 months ago.
I agree. I mean, we have been hired the second time around because of inexperienced agents getting in and, maybe not seeking mentorship and having somebody there to help guide them and coach them as they're working through their new client. And they're just kind of spieling off whatever they learned in maybe a new agent training course.
And the mentorship is incredibly important to get them over that hump.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And why new agents also probably don't want to, and agents in general, this isn't just, pick on a knock on new agents, but agents are really commission split and self-conscious.
Yeah.
Right. They obviously want to make the lion's share even in the beginning. And, where I look at it and say, look, if you're getting the right guy, the right mentorship, the right coaching, and it's going to set you up for success to put you and your business in the best position to win, realistically, the commission split shouldn't matter on the first couple of deals because you don't know what you don't know yet, and you need to work your way through it. Because even today, almost 20 years and thousands of closings later, there are still some things that pop up. I'm like, man, I don't know how to handle that.
Mm-hmm.
And I then need to go to my broker, or I need to go to others that, have been in the industry longer, or just go to a roundtable type discussion or our attorneys to figure out what is the best solution to handle this so that we can make sure that we're protecting our clients and putting them in the best position to win.
Sure. And always be learning. That's going to be part of what you talked about in your book that I wanted to highlight today. But I think that mentorship, and then, 100% of zero is zero, right? So if you were going to lose a listing because you didn't have enough experience, you didn't have that person with you that knew a little bit more that could help you get over that hump, sharing that commission doesn't become a big deal anymore, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So you got to kind of see past your nose a little bit when it comes to that. But I know agents, and when they're new, they don't have a lot of money. They're spending they're hemorrhaging money to get into this business and don't know when someone's coming down the pipe. So it's a harder thing to talk about, but they have to, again, see the benefit of that's why they're on a team like yours. That's why they have that access, right?
Right. Look, there's 5 stages to the emotional cycle of change. And when someone gets into a business or starts a new career venture, their phase 1 is uninformed optimism, right? It's they don't know what they don't know. They're just super excited. They've already found the gold at the end of the rainbow in their mind, and they didn't envision having to muck through the crap.
Yeah.
Right. So they haven't, it's all rainbows and butterflies.
Oh, they thought they were going to show pretty houses.
Yes. Yeah. It was going to be working with fun clients, and it was going to be a fun process. But then you start getting, other people involved and high emotions and a lot of money. And the biggest thing that I've always learned is if you screw up somebody's money, they're not going to be very happy with you.
That's right.
And so it takes a lot of, skill and tact just to make sure that, again, I'm going to wear this word out, but make sure that you're putting your clients in the best position to win. And a lot of times what ends up happening as a new agent, and just, again, this is just people in general, we want to treat every transaction and every closing like we're the ones buying or selling. And we have to remember, this is not our house. This is not our property. We're not buying it. We're not moving into it. We're not sleeping in it. We're not making the payments, right? I'm not the one selling it and cashing the net proceeds at the end of the day. They hired us to facilitate a transaction and to get them there successfully, and hopefully with very little road bumps.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to do with not getting our emotions involved. And too many times agents get their emotions involved. They make it personal, and that's when everybody doesn't win.
Well, you and your team are masters at helping those new agents navigate through their transactions. And I've also noticed that you have incredible retention on your team, which is unusual for team leaders. I mean, usually what I see is a cycle in and out of agents. They come onto the team, they pay the split, they get what they need, they no longer see the value, and then they leave, right?
Correct. Yep.
But you've got some serious longevity on your team, which also I'm sure was a contributor to kind of your knowledge that you poured into the book that you wrote, right?
Well, yeah.
Not only being successful on your own, but being successful as a team leader.
Yeah, look, starting a team, everyone thinks that's the next phase in their journey. And I will always say this, is said, know why you're starting a team, right? You're one of your questions is going to be know your why, and we can go over that in a minute. But, know why you're starting a team, because it's not as profitable and luxurious as everyone thinks it is. And you're right, a real estate team and a brokerage is a revolving door, right? It's agents don't see the value or the long-term value, and you have to continue showing it, or the leverage piece, or to say, like, look, if they go on their own, unfortunately, they might do well temporarily, but over the long haul, statistically, if you just look at the odds, the chances are they're not going to make more money than if they were on a successful real estate team. Right? Because we can grow through costs of scale. And then we can work on leverage pieces. We can work on different lead generation pillars. And, we can as a team, my job is to make sure that I'm putting our agents in the best position to win. And that might be looking at different lead generation programs, different marketing programs, ways to, stay out in front of our clients so that we get that repeat and referral business. And when you're a solo or individual agent, as your business scales or goes up and down on that kind of that up and down roller coaster, 1 minute we're really, really busy.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't think about anything other than getting these darn deals closed.
Yeah.
Right. And then our lead generation, really stops. We don't really follow up. And then what happens is we close all those deals. And then for the next 3, 4, 5, 6 months, we hardly have any closings. Right. It's this yo-yo pattern.
Right.
And they don't know how to get past that. And the biggest reason is because they don't have that time to really sit there and focus, like, how am I going to put the right systems in place? How am I going to perfect these systems? Who am I going to hire to make sure that these things are running perfectly or as well as can be 24/7, so that I can stay top of mind to my past clients. I can stay top of mind to the leads that are coming in that we're nurturing. And the majority of real estate agents can't see past that,
Right.
because they just want to get that next check, and they're not running it like a business.
So interesting. I mean, I had a conversation with someone last week. He said, I wanted to start a team. And I'm like, are you sure? And the answer is, let's start with a TC. Then let's, how about some admin staff that can help you leverage your time? Because if you were to bring someone on right now, I don't know how well that would work out. But there does need to be systems in place and infrastructure and all of those things that you said. And then once you figure all that out, you can bring somebody on, and then you got to figure out how to keep them.
But then you got to train them. What ends up happening if you're so busy, right? Here's what happens. You're so busy, you bring someone on, and then you train them for a day. You throw all your junk at them. And like, my coach told me that I need to offload everything that I don't like to do. And that needs to be your job and your role now. And then you hand them over everything, and they're sitting there like, okay. And then there's no training, there's no processes, there's no policies and procedures. And even during that time, once you get that going, there's still things that break in the middle of it. There's still training that needs to happen. Even on our team, right? We made a massive change in our operation side last year, and we brought in somebody new.
To do what?
That's kind of our transaction coordinator, a negotiator,
Okay.
Side of our business.
Got it.
And the person previously had been with me for almost 13 years.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And now when when you bring someone else new in, you look at, all right, how do I update? How do I get more modernized? How do I provide better client services and better care? And while you're building those things out, you'll still see that there's still imperfections and flaws in the systems that whatever you're building at that time, and you always are constantly tweaking and adding and improving. and it feels like it's whack-a-mole every single day.
It sounds like whack-a-mole. Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm really glad that you're this, obviously is not the reason I brought you in here. We could have like probably six podcasts today, but I am really glad that you're explaining kind of the intricacies of being a team leader. I've had podcasts like this before where I've talked to like Lance Taylor, or I've talked to you about this before as well. But I like the honesty about the challenges, right? And both pros and cons, right?
Yeah.
Challenge doesn't always mean negative. I don't want it to always mean negative. But it's how have you successfully made this the machine that it is today and retain those clients? It's a fascinating vein of conversation.
Yeah, it's a lot of sacrifice, a little bit of ego, right? That's probably why we start a team in general. We want to be the go-to person.
Well, you think that's what you're supposed to do?
Sure, right? That's kind of the coveted spot in the industry. And that's how a lot of times you can sell a lot of properties and win all the accolades and the awards, right? And real estate agents love to promote their awards, right?
I have no idea what you're talking about. Y'all are so boring on my Facebook, by the way.
Yeah. All the awards. They love
D Magazine season kills me.
Yes.
Real Producer Award season kills me.
And you don't really look, I stopped going to a lot of those. And then even the little, like the school certificates and stuff like that. It's just, to me, it's insane. That's not the reason I did it. I did it from I needed leverage, right?
Yeah, and there's value in it, right? You want people to know that you're successful in what you do.
Yes.
My tough side, I have 5,000 of y'all as friends on Facebook.
Yes.
That's what my feed becomes.
Correct.
For like a month.
Yeah. No, I look, my role as a team leader is to attract agents to our team and our brokerage and our operations. And so the majority of my Facebook friends are realtors as well. And I see it.
Yeah.
And I know the game.
Sure.
Right?
You know why they're doing it.
Yeah, I respect the game.
Same reason why they say I just closed on this new listing or look at my new listing.
Yes, absolutely. So look, it's not hating on it. It's just we need to do better.
Yeah.
And we need to understand our why of why we would start a team. Or sometimes it's better to join a team and let our egos go because we can make more money. Like if I wasn't running, if the Good Home team wasn't what it is today, I would be on someone else's team. I
would love to see how that
I would absolutely be on someone else's team, not have to worry about anything other than lead generation, closing clients, and let them do all the rest of the work. It would be amazing. And honestly, the profit would be very, very similar in terms of what the top salespeople make. Actually, they'd probably make a little bit more than the team if done correctly. I mean, I'd be happy to show anybody my P&Ls.
Interesting. I'm going to share this section with the person who asked me or told me that they wanted to start a team.
Please.
I was like, maybe you should rethink that. You don't have to have a team to be incredibly successful.
No. We look at everyone else's Facebook feed and compare it to ours.
Yeah.
And we don't know. We're only looking at that shiny promotion and it sounds great. And we think they're making so much money. And we're like, oh, they just did this. They just closed on that. And then when you really get to know someone, I had a business partner of mine say, don't go meet your idols, right? Because if you go meet your idols, and get to know them, you're probably going to be in for a letdown. Because once you get behind the curtain, you're like, well, this is kind of a shit show, right? They're not on that pedestal the way that we put them there.
Yeah. And look, I get to see inside and behind the curtain on a lot of teams. And so I've seen the successes and I've seen the failures and I've seen why it happens. And so I think it's a really big endeavor. And I think that while the accolades are great and the prestigeness of having a team is great, I think that it's an incredible amount of work. And in order to run one successfully, you have to be dedicated to an incredible amount of work.
Yeah.
And also the letdown of I brought this person on, I raised them up, taught them everything they know, and look, now they're going and doing something else. And you got to be able to wish them well or figure out how to retain them. And we'll do a podcast on retaining team members because I think you got some secret sauce on that. But I want to kind of refocus back onto your book. One of the things that we hear all the time is that you're working in your real estate business, not on your real estate business, and you touched on this in the book. So, do you want to explain the difference?
Sure. I mean, we go back and listen. What I just said earlier is like we go through this yo-yo phase, right? Where we're working to get really, really busy, and we're doing one thing, and we're trying to do one thing really, really well. But to me, working in your business, it's like you're an employer, like you're the salesperson. Working on your business, you're the business owner, and working on your business is setting up your future goals, your future success, and then putting the right systems and the right implementation in place so that you can achieve those goals. Right. So one thing that I'll go back to, even I think it was 2009 or 2010, the Good Home Team, my brother and I started the Good Home Team in 2009. 2010, I was at probably a Keller Williams training event, and they had us make our Disney map, our Disney vision.
You did talk about Disney in the book, yes.
Yep. And in our Disney map, and I have it saved in a Google Drive somewhere, and I go look at it every now and again. We had planned out what our businesses were going to look like, and where we wanted them to get to, and it was the Good Home Team. We called it TGHT Worldwide, kind of after was it Step Brothers and the Prestige Worldwide when he's doing the investor presentation. But it went from our real estate business and making that an income pillar for us, our investment division, making that an income pillar for us. We had hard money, so a lending institution. And then we had profit share because we were at Keller Williams at that time. That was part of our allied income resources. So we really wanted to have title, mortgage, insurance. And if you look at it fast forward today, we've achieved the majority of what was on our Disney vision. And we just put it into place. And that's starting to work on the business, of what do you want your business to look like in 3 to 5 years? Not just you always doing the same thing Groundhog's Day, where you wake up, you need to talk to 10 to 15, 20 people. You need to ask them, do they happen to know anybody thinking about buying, selling, or investing in real estate? That's working in the business, right? That's your job. That's to get the day-to-day income. But what are you going to do to actually build this to make it a legitimate business that if you go on vacation for a month, how does your operation still run? How does it still bring in money and revenue and continuing to run without you? To me, that's working on the business of being able to set that up. And it doesn't have to be massive. You don't have to build it into an Amazon type, but it can be, you can have it visualized and set up so that it can support the type of lifestyle that you want to build and have.
Okay, and that kind of taps into your why. Now, you did answer one of my questions by talking about the different pillars that you and Austin wanted to set up from the beginning, and that you've fulfilled that, right? Those, and you've got even more pillars of income now. But so, and Keller Williams is really big about talking about your why, and that's kind of where that's where you came from.
That's right.
So that makes sense, right? So, I want to talk about what is your why, and how important was it or is it to drill down and define your why? Because to me, that's the important part of taking your dream, which you talk about, taking your dream and turning it into a clear vision in the book.
Correct. I mean, I've always disliked the what is your why question.
I know, I hate it too.
I dislike it so much because I got in at 24. So back then, I thought my why back then was to have what I called FU money or private jet money.
I saw that. I wrote that. I wanted to write that down, private jet money. Yeah.
Private jet money. But if I really go back and look at it, my why back then that kept me going was I didn't want to look, I had this fear of looking like I was a failure. To my friends and family around me. Because look, at 17 years old, I dropped out of high school and got a GED.
You said that in the book. I didn't know that about you.
Yep.
Not that it matters.
Yeah, dropped out of high school, got a GED. My mom, was a superintendent of a school district, has a doctorate in education.
Now that was interesting. I'm sure she wasn't real happy.
She wasn't unhappy about it. I just had made a plan and said, I got hurt playing football. I was no longer that high school jock. And so I felt my purpose of schooling was gone and it wasn't there. And I felt like I didn't need it. And looking back, I didn't. I just developed a plan. I dropped out. I said, I can get my GED at 17. I can go apply for colleges, which I did. Went to a junior college and then moved into 4-year and got my college degree, my 4-year degree. And so, But back then, my really, if I really go deep on that why that I've learned later on, it was a fear of other people seeing me as a failure, and that drove me to success, right? Because I wasn't, just like in gambling, like gambling addicts, like you only lose when you give up. Like you're not a loser until you just walk away. Like you might be down, but if you get on a good run
or run out of money,
well, you find a way to get more. You take loans.
Okay.
But eventually the cards.
Nick, you're gonna dig a hole here.
But eventually the cards have to turn, and you're gonna go up.
Yeah,
right?
they never have for me. That's why I don't do it.
Yeah. So on that, it's like the fear of failure was just driving me. Today, it's more so of setting up my future, my family's future for success.
I get that.
And I didn't have that when I was 24, and so that obviously has evolved. The fear of failure, doesn't bother me as much anymore. And I don't see it that way, but it's really just that drive of, all right, how do I set my family's future up for success? Because I don't believe, I can go deeper on a government thing, but I just don't believe the government's going to do anything to make it better for a future generation.
Well, I don't think that either.
So so it's up to me.
Okay, Brian Force.
Yeah.
No, I think, look, I get the corniness of the why, right? Yeah. I think there is some corniness to it, but the principle has some teeth to it in trying to figure out exactly what's going to drive you to get up every day and go be a success. Because look, this business is a marathon. It's not a sprint. I got the road rash to prove it. I've been here since 2009 too. Okay. And so being able to stay in a very aggressive business and be successful requires some grit and some understanding of what's going to drive you to get up every day and do it.
Yeah.
So I think that's how I kind of talk about my why, right? Is I'm a party of one, and no, the government's not going to write me probably a check by the time I'm done. And I've got to be able to, how much money do you have to need to retire? I mean, how long are you, the math is just, I can't with the math, but having that understanding of what it's going to take to support myself through retirement is very important. I'm not going to be the oldest title rep in title walking around completely irrelevant, because I have to. Okay.
Yeah. There's a lot of them, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's not going to happen. So moving on. Okay. So this was an interesting question to me, because what was your aha moment when you realized you were going to turn this into a 7-figure business instead of a 6-figure business? Like, what was the most important thing you did to get there? What was that pivot point?
So it was really 2008. And I say this a lot, if you've heard my story before, or even, you read in the book, is that 2008, I had 8 homes under contract in 1 month. And it was,
I've heard this.
It was my best month ever in my short real estate career at that time. And then the financial collapse happened. I lost all 8 of those contracts. They did not come back to life. There was no pipeline for future business, and I didn't know what to do. So like any sane human being, I started interviewing for jobs, and the jobs back then were hard to get, right? It was not a good market to be unemployed or having no money.
No idea what you were talking about.
And yes, and
what was going on in 2000?
that massive financial collapse, unfortunately, that the lenders started.
Yeah, the damn lenders.
Yeah, those mortgage people just giving everybody loans. And I had interviewed for a job at a asset management company. They were brought in to clear out all these foreclosures coming in. I went through several interviews. They offered me a $60,000 or $65,000 a year salary job, and they had bonuses in there. But really, they needed me with as much inventory as they were needing to clear out. I really needed to work Monday through Saturday, and then to hit the bonuses, I needed to work on a Sunday, and then magically create an 8th day in there to hit my bonus level.
I'm tired.
And so on the way home, this aha light bulb moment hit me. It was like, if I put the same amount of time and energy and effort that this W-2 salary job is expected and required of me, if in order for me to keep it, if I put that same amount of energy and effort and activities into my real estate practice, because at that time I wasn't, then there's no reason why I can't make at least $65,000, and there's no reason why I can't make at least $100,000. And so what I started to focus on was like, all right, if I have no pipeline for business, by the way, I turned that job down. And the next day I turned that job down, and really started to get comfortable with the idea that I needed to look for motivated sellers and buyers. And the motivated sellers back then were people that were expired or canceled, or maybe they were on the foreclosure list and the for sale by owners. So I got really comfortable and learned how to work through my fear of just calling strangers. I wasn't born. I never wanted to cold call.
Okay.
I never wanted to pick up a phone and talk to a stranger and try to convince
Nobody
them.
does.
No one
I don't
does.
think.
There's very few.
Yeah.
I met a few, and they're strange.
They're strange.
And they're strange. But I had to learn, that was another skill set that I just studied and I perfected through time and effort and activity, and I made it better. And I went on a lot of appointments. And in 2009, when we started the Good Home Team, we broke six figures. It was like we'll call it $250,000 to make this story short. And then 2014 or 15 is when we broke the 7-figure mark in commissions. And then ever since then, it's always been 7 figures and growing. And then we've used, I've lived below my means and have reused that money to buy investments. And
you're very good at that. I live well below my means as well.
Yeah.
Because I want to have investable income.
Yeah. I want to.
But that's opposite of realtor world.
Yeah, they spend the money before they even have a closing.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen title reps running around with Porsches and I'm not, expensive cars, and I'm like, but that cost something, you know what I mean? But meanwhile, I'm gonna buy some more houses.
Look, it's always good when the money's flowing in until it stops.
Yeah, what are you gonna do once the market turns or your commissions go down or something happens? Like I parted ways with 2 escrow officers last year.
Yeah,
You know?
there's a lot of change in this industry, right? Whether it's on the title side with people that are working in the industry, there's
a ton of changes.
Not just real estate agents.
We're
seeing loan officers now become real estate agents. We're seeing people that have been in the business 20, 25 years leave the industry and just going into corporate world.
I've had 3 realtors in the last month tell me they want to move into title.
Yes, they're
By the way, y'all don't make good title reps.
No, we don't. We're awful at that, and that's never been on my vision board. So you
don't call me Nick.
Don't worry about it. I want to own a title company, maybe.
That doesn't surprise me.
But it's really finding money. The biggest thing that
wait, don't ruin.
Okay.
I know what you're gonna say.
Well, we gotta go look for the motivated sellers and buyers.
That's right.
That are raising their hands to saying, I'm needing to buy something right now, because we want to shorten that life cycle of getting to the closing table. Mm-hmm. And if you go buy internet leads, usually it takes, to even be successful, that's about an 8 to 12 month process before you even see a return on your investment.
Yeah.
You start farming neighborhoods, that's about an 8 to 12 month process until you start seeing hopefully a positive return on your investment. And so realistically, I'm an impatient person. If I'm spending money, you can ask anybody I've done business with that I bought leads on. Usually the relationship doesn't end very well because they overpromise and they don't deliver.
That's right.
And I'm not getting an ROI, but I can get an ROI off for sale by owners. I can get an ROI off expires and cancels. It's been proven.
What's the turnaround time on for sale by owners or expired listings?
So expires and cancels, they're raising their hands right now. For sale by owners are a little bit longer in terms of getting them into agreement to hire a real estate agent. Right there, they're the ones that don't want to pay a commission, obviously. Right. So that's usually to get hired on, you're probably looking at 6 to 8 weeks on a for sale by owner. On an expired or canceled, if you can get past their frustration that they're housed and sell and that they've kind of given up on this thought or they want to take a break. I mean, I've turned expires and canceled into the same day they've canceled and expired to a listing the very next day and then under contract in 7 to 10 days and close in 45.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you almost spoiled it. So I have a couple of quotes. I listen to the show regularly, and I have a couple of quotes. Actually, the one where you guys say it's always a good time to buy a house. Yep. That was a reel from one of my podcasts not too recently. Yep. It was one of my highest viewed reels. Yep. Wow.
And people shit on us for that. Like,
why? I think it's brilliant. It is always a good time to buy a house.
But that's a cliche real estate agent saying, right? When's a good time to buy? Well, for me, it's always a great time to buy because I need your commission.
I have literally never looked at it that way.
But you're in the industry, right? So outside, go post that on TikTok or some of these other and watch the hate coming in.
Okay.
But it's never explained properly. It's always a great time to buy or sell depending on what the situation you're going through.
I agree.
Right? Like last year, buyers That was an amazing time for a buyer to go buy a house if they could financially afford it. The reason being is that most of them probably sat on the sidelines during COVID because they saw how much the run up was. They didn't have the extra cash to go above asking price. And they're like, you know what, I'm going to wait because I can't play in this market. Last year was their window of opportunity, but you know what they did? They waited because they saw interest rates go up through the roof.
That's right.
They're like, nope, I can't do that. I'm going to have to wait for rates to come back down.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and then we're like, guys, what do you think is going to happen when rates going to come back down? The pent-up demand is going to be there. We don't have enough inventory built up yet, so it's not going to offset it. We're going to go back into that multiple offer market. So here's, that whole cliche saying we all heard last year was date the rate, marry the house, right? You get tired of hearing that, but the reason being is that for buyers, that was one of their best opportunities.
It made sense.
And what did they do? They listen to the media way too much. They don't want to trust in the real estate professional because we're just salespeople just trying to get a commission and payday out of them, and we don't care. But we're looking for windows of opportunities to find how do we put them in the best position to win in this type of market. And this was a great time. I had clients that we negotiated interest rate buy downs. I had a client from New York come down here. They're saving money on taxes, and we were able to get them into a much better rate. We were able to get them save a ton of closing costs, right? Because the seller paid for it.
I know, it's great.
Yes.
I mean, look, you just have to look. I'm not trying to say, I love that saying because you and the team don't let fear of the current market conditions drive your business. And you leverage the tools that we have at our disposal in that current market to get buyers into homes in a way that makes sense for a buyer. It's not just putting someone in a house at the highest interest rate with the biggest mortgage payment and watching them fail. It's putting them in a house successfully, okay? And that's why I like that quote that you guys say. It's always a good time to buy a house because you will figure out how to strategically make that happen.
Sure.
And I have an appreciation for that. When everyone else was like, money's too expensive, can't do it, oh my God, you guys were solving. The next quote.
It is.
There it is. Money changes hands when problems are solved. And that's literally a chapter in your book.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I love that quote also.
I mean, and that was that I got that from a mentor and a coach, and I just embodied and embraced that because that's what I did in 2008. I found, there was the cancels and expires. I didn't want to go down and work cancels and expires. That was not my dream, but it turned out to be my bread and butter for the longest time. And in 2020, that dried up. Obviously, there wasn't a lot of cancels and expired. So then we had to shift and figure out other programs and find it. There's always, in any type of marketplace, there's always problems. And if you can solve that problem, and that my mentor and coach would say, the bigger the problem, the bigger the money that exchanges hands.
Okay, I like that quote too.
Right? So when you really, really look at this, is like, we are problem solvers. How do we go and find what is the problem in the marketplace right now? And how do we become that problem solver for them?
I like that quote a lot too. And I think that we when the market shifted, we use the word pivot all the time, right? Same principle, challenge solution. I have a lender client that loves pivot and loves challenge solution, but it's the same principle. And being a problem solver is what's going to help you generate the business, right? And it's going to put people, look, I've been saying this for years. I want Texans to be able to afford houses in Texas. I want Texans to be able to live in houses in Texas, okay? I love all the California people. Okay, that's fine, great. I made a ton of money off y'all. Thank you very much, okay? But I need Texans to be able to stay in Texas.
Correct.
And so what you guys are doing is you're leveraging tools that are available to you to continue to get Texans in houses. And that I like.
Yes, no, 100%. And that will be the reason why we stay at the top of our game, as long as we continue to always embrace and embody, that we're going to be the problem solver. We're going to be the go-to expert in the marketplace. On our weekly sales meetings, we always talk about our agents get bored to death with CPI, the index report, what's going on with interest rates and everything else. All agents want to hear from lenders that rates are going down, right? Our agents can kind of, I won't say they do it all the way just yet very well, but our goal is to make sure they can explain the reason why rates are going up or what they're doing. Because right now, inflation is not headed in the right direction again. And so we're seeing the Fed, we're seeing the Treasury yield right now go up a little bit, and that's going to affect rates. A lot of agents don't understand that, actually. Mm-hmm. They don't understand that the 10-year Treasury actually impacts the actual mortgage rates itself, but It's a whole nother deal. But we need to be the real estate experts for them. And if our clients see that from us, then they're going to tell their friends and family and shout our names from the rooftops, right? And the goal is to get them to come back, because there was, and I'm going to butcher the stat, but it was a high percentage of clients said that they would use their same real estate agent again on a buy or sell. But when that time actually came, it was actually a single digits.
Oh yeah, it's terrible.
That they actually reused that same client.
It's terrible.
And the reason being is because we're horrible at follow-up, we're horrible at staying in touch, and we're horrible at providing value, right? We're just calling and saying, hey, Tamera, how are you liking that new house? That's even if we call you. And hey, do you happen to know anybody that's needing to buy or sell? Eventually, that's going to get old.
Yeah.
Right. Eventually, you're going to stop taking my call because you're like, here's Nick, the agent.
Yep.
Here's Nick, the real estate agent, only going to call me to ask who do I happen to know thinking about buying or selling. Yeah. Like we need to be providing value. What my number one goal and strategy is to continue implementing for our agents and our clients is how can I then take Tamera, and I learned she has 6 rental investment properties. How do I get her to 12? Mm-hmm. How do I get her to 24?
I would love to have.
How do I make sure that I help her become, financially independent off of her investment income through real estate? And if I can do that, do you think she's going anywhere?
Nope.
No. Do you think she's going to refer me more clients?
Yep.
Absolutely. That's what we need to be doing for our clients. And we're just not.
Can we have that conversation?
100%.
Is there anything we need to wrap up? I mean, look, we could sit here and talk all afternoon as far as I'm concerned, but I know you're a busy professional and you've got things to do besides sitting here and talk to me, but thank you for your time. And is there anything that you feel that you want to leave the audience from your book that is just really important to you?
I mean, it's all important. I mean, the number one thing is we got to change that 49% of agents in the United States sold 0-1 house.
Okay,
that is
right.
Absolutely, that is on the agent's faults of not putting the time and effort in to master this craft. That's like going and buying. I use it. We got cameras in here. It'd be like Jesse, who's the producer behind the cameras here, buying a very nice, expensive camera, and then it's not focusing. And then he goes and returns it and says, this camera doesn't work. And the guy at Best Buy is like, well, did you read the instructions? He's like, nope. I just know it doesn't work. I know how to point at the person. And if you go read the instructions and become the master of that equipment, you're going to be the go-to expert. And if you know how to also stay and provide, or to continue providing value to your sphere, to your past clients, and again, if you help someone make money, they're never going to leave you. They're always going to come back. And we just need to do a better job on that.
That'll be where we end the show for today. You guys go check out Nick Good's book, The 6-Figure Agent. I found it on Amazon, so you can have it to your front doorstep in no time. Thank you again for joining me today. Always have a pleasure to have you on the show. Again, my name is Tamera Gady. I'm the host. And if you like my content, you're really going to love my escrow team. So give me an opportunity to talk to you about your title needs and make it a great day.